Welcome everyone to another episode of Undisputed Nerds with your gorgeous, delectable hosts, the Gentlemanly Gamer, that's me, and Zane, the Dark Archer Taichou. We talk about all kinds of different things from comic book movies, games, TV shows, hell, even books. And I'm about to introduce you to the lovely man himself. Zane, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Not too shabby. How about yourself?
I'm fabulous. I'm traversing the multiversal
Ooh.
worlds of Marvel and DC. Apparently,
Hey.
that's right. I'm looping it all in this evening, like a fine spaghetti bolognese. Zane, I'm looping it all in. How's
like
that for
that.
references? Oh yeah, oh yeah. If you want to know what the hell we're talking about, stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Zane, what's new with you, darling? It's been a couple of weeks.
It has been. I've been loving all these gaming showcases. I don't know about you, but I've been hooked.
Hooked,
Like
you say?
hooked. Like
Hooked.
crazy. Yeah. From the PlayStation showcase to the Xbox showcase to the Ubisoft to Capcom.
Good Lord, he's gone full Dustin Hoffman, ladies and gentlemen. He's completely hooked. Yeah, the Capcom. Okay, so you had me until you said the Capcom one.
It's kind of why I ended with it.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't that great, was it? I mean, I believe that the main takeaway from the Capcom showcase was: did we need it?
I mean, Dragon's Dogma 2. That's
Yeah.
probably the most exciting game I'm on their slate that I kind of like.
There was some interesting stuff. But the Xbox One was like the Xbox One was. So here's the inside tracked Undisputed Nerdiverse. Zane is a Sony boy. I am an Xbox boy. Xbox has not been doing well lately. I'm perfectly willing to admit it. But that showcase was excellent. It was a very good showcase. Good. And Starfield does look very, very good. I hope it will be. But the only and Payday, ironically enough, Payday 3 was the one that really like set me off because I love the first two Paydays. So when I saw Payday 3 was coming to Games Pass day one, I was like, yes! But like the only thing that I had a problem with was similar to the previous Xbox Games Showcase, where they need to be sooner. You know, it's like Starfield's imminent, so that's great. But like Fable, still years away. Probably 2025 when push comes to shove. You know, like a lot of the big heavy hitters from that showcase were 2024, and it's like I think we've got what? So we've got Starfield, we've got Avowed. Avowed actually looks all right, and it's Obsidian, and I do love Obsidian. But that was 2024 as well, wasn't it? I don't think that's
it was. Yeah. I don't think it's this year.
But Starfield's this year. Starfield's this year. Payday 3 is this year, which I was excited about. And I think there was one other game that was this year before the end of the year, and I was like, oh man, that's Forza Motorsport.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And I was like, oh dude, like come on, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. And weirdly, like some of the other stuff. So you mentioned which showcase did you mention before? Then you mentioned one before
Ubisoft.
Was it the Ubisoft one? Lies of P was what I was talking about, which looks really good.
Oh, yeah.
So that's coming out on Games Pass as well, day one, and that's in September. But yeah, I mean, and then City Skyline 2 was like, okay, cool, you know, but like so many of the big, you know, the ones that you want to see. And I don't know, it just feels like Xbox is like, if Starfield doesn't work, if Starfield's not good, then Xbox is in big time trouble because, you know, with Nintendo, there's Zelda, there's Mario, you know, there's Pokemon, exactly. There's all kinds of first party games that you've got, you know. With Sony, there's God of War, you know, the Uncharted series, Spider-Man, you know, Horizon, exactly. There's loads of first party stuff. You know, they now I'm not a huge fan of it, but Destiny as well. They've got the, you know, Bungie as well. They've bought. And Xbox, Halo did not do well.
No,
it didn't. Redfall was a disaster. And then, you know, what the hell has happened to Gears of War? Gears has vanished. the last Gears of War came out 4 years ago now. Was it 3-4 years ago?
Maybe.
Like,
yeah.
Name a major first party title that it's got.
Mm.
You know, and there's lots of stuff that I play, and Sea of Thieves is great, but I wouldn't say it's like a needle mover. You know,
No.
State of Decay 2 was great, not a needle mover. You know, and it's I worry. I do worry a lot about Xbox at the moment. They are on shaky grounds. They've focused, I think, too much on hardware as opposed to software. What did you think of the showcase, Zane? I'm sorry, I've just yapped on for like 5 minutes. I'll just bang on about myself some more.
No, it's okay. I was pleasantly surprised with all of them, to be fair, how much gameplay footage they showed across all consoles, across all studio publishers and such. Again, I know there was some like Fable, which was teaser trailers, but compared to recent years, I think that was kind of a lot more minimal compared to, as I say, to what we saw. So I was kind of thankful for that, because we saw Val gameplay. We saw, of course, Starfield had a huge showcase. Assassin's Creed had gameplay, and gameplay of Assassin's Creed Red or Jade, sorry, which was like a mobile game.
Yes. Yep.
But yeah, of course, the new Star Wars as well. There's going to be
Outlaws looked very good. Yeah, that's also, that is Xbox, isn't it? I guess. Yeah, the other thing that was, it's kind of I hope it might be a sleeper hit, but Clockwork Revolution looked really good. It's the one, it's steampunky and time travel-y.
Yeah,
it kind of gave me BioShock vibes, which was which I liked a lot. And probably I will say the other thing that was before the end of the year, which I'm extraordinarily excited about, because I played it when it was fixed and it was really good. Cyberpunk, the Phantom Liberty expansion.
With Big Driss,
with Big Bad Driss, and also sexy Keanu's back.
Today's video, Surfshark VPN, who have given me, now get this, 83% off plus 3 months free. So if you've been meaning to pick up a VPN, now might be the time. Surfshark is a trusted VPN to help you protect your privacy online. Whether that's protecting yourself from malicious websites, or if you're in a public Wi-Fi connection, you can keep your information locked down. Surfshark's clean web feature blocks ads, trackers, malware, and phishing attempts, allowing you to surf the web safely. Plus, it lets you change your virtual location. So if there's an anime on Netflix that's not available in your country, but say in Japan, guess what? You're in Japan now. You want to use BBC iPlayer to watch all of Doctor Who. So pick up Surfshark using the link in the description down below. Use code Undisputed Nerds and get 83% off and 3 months free.
It was good. It was a good showcase. I enjoyed it. It made me hopeful for Xbox, but they have to nail. If Starfield doesn't deliver, it's not good. Although I do dispute, he's never going to listen to this, but Drag is not on board with Starfield at all. And you and I, not Drag, sorry, Rinsler. Yeah. Rinsler's not on board. And you and I are normally, we know Rinsler as being, and if you're listening, you're the king of hype. You buy into everything. You buy into everything. Whatever's the latest fad, you're all like, "Oh, it's going to be great." And he's never going to listen to this, so I can just say it. Anyway.
Yeah.
But he is not on board with Starfield at all. He's like, it looks like a less spectacular No Man's Sky, and I'm like, does it? He's like, it's just No Man's Sky, but with like thousands less planets, and I'm like, yeah, but like No Man's Sky had thousands and thousands of planets because it was procedurally generated, but no story. So I would like a story with fleshed out planets, please. That would be nice, and that's hopefully what we're going to get. I'm excited for Starfield. I am. I think it's going to be good. But we'll see. It's Bethesda, isn't it? So we'll see what kind of bugs come out. Do you see someone's critic bombed it already?
Really?
Yep. Somebody's gone on Metacritic and left it a bad review, saying that it's basically going to be full of bugs.
Oh no!
It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic.
Is that because of the frame rate as well? Because I've seen a lot of people throw their hands up in the air because it's 30 frames per second, not 60.
But the thing is, well, the main issue with, I think, the frame rate situation at the moment is because the Xbox said that Redfall was going to be 60 frames per second, and then it wasn't, and then they couldn't do it, so they had to back out of it. And I think that's why they've basically gone, no, Starfield's 30 frames and it's locked that way. That's how we intended it, and they've just been upfront about it this time and just been like, nope, sorry, but we told you that. We were open and honest with you from the get-go, because Redfall burned a lot of people. It's bad. Is, although it's been patched actually, so I haven't played it properly since it's been patched, and they seem to have done a lot of quality of life improvements to like the AI and stuff like that. So I don't know, maybe it's passable now. We'll see at some point. But yeah. Anyway, we're not here to talk about showcases, are we? Well, we are here to talk about a showcase of a sort, I guess.
Ooh, I like it.
It's a showcase of DC and the Snyderverse and all kinds of things, isn't it, Zane?
It's a showcase of a mess of a cinematic universe come together in one movie. Let's go, baby.
It's literally the surgical operation to fix the cancer of the DC universe.
Wow.
We're going to talk about The Flash, guys. We've seen it. We have seen the movie. We literally finished watching it a couple of hours ago because it was really long, and I was not expecting it to be as long as it was. So we're gonna have a chat about it. We'll do non-spoilers, give our verdict non-spoilery, and then go full spoilerific on it. Zane, do you want to give us a little rundown of what the story of The Flash is and where we're at in the universe currently?
Oh boy. So The Flash is a hero whose main power is being the fastest man alive. Now, for those who are familiar with the TV series or maybe the cartoons, this was kind of a version of Flashpoint. Again, based on the Jeff Johns famous comic book. It wasn't a series as such, it was more of an event. But this was a weird version of that, dare I say?
It's a version, all right. It's a version. Yes. Without spoiling anything, yes, they've very loosely adapted Flashpoint.
Nice surprises in here. Some, of course, we've already seen in the trailers, such as Michael Keaton returning as Batman. Of course, we get to see Ben Affleck return as Batfleck for one last time.
I was waiting how long it would take you to talk about Batfleck. Yes. For those of you who haven't seen the trailers, sorry, we just spoiled that for you. There's quite a lot of if you've read the Flashpoint book, it is a lot of the core points of Flashpoint. So he wants to go back in time and save his mum from being killed, and what are the ramifications of him going back in time and changing things by saving his mum. The butterfly effect of one small change can have ramifications across the way. The other thing to mention as well, which is shown in the trailer. So if you haven't seen the trailers, then spoilers. This is our first introduction to this generational Supergirl. So you see Supergirl in the trailers, and she is featured prominently in this as well. I think Ezra Miller is playing again trailer based. He's playing multiple versions of himself. On the show, historically speaking, I think we can give opinions about how we thought the acting in it was, at the beginning of the piece. I've not been a big fan of Ezra Miller on this show. I think personally speaking, I'm not a fan of his. I think personally them. I apologize. That is his pronoun, their pronoun. They have been basically not a nice person in real life by all accounts, and they have done some very questionable things. But in this, they are excellent. They knock it out of the park when it comes to being the Flash and being Barry, and the duality of the roles that he's playing, because he is basically playing two versions of the same character.
Yeah,
and he's very good. He's very good in it. It genuinely took me by surprise that I found myself both liking the character when I did not like him in Justice League. I thought that the Flash character was stupid in Justice League. In this, I really liked him. Like I really, and I connected very like a lot with him. Keaton is Keaton. He's just Keaton. Sasha Calle is very good as Supergirl as well. And we'll get more into that as we come into spoilers and along the way. One last thing to talk about is so this was directed by Andy Muschietti, who the last work I saw him doing was It Chapter 1 and 2, which are both universally liked. I don't think I've seen Chapter 2. I've only seen Chapter 1. Chapter 1's really, it's really good. But I've not seen Chapter 2. I don't think I'll have to watch that.
Chapter 2 was my first experience in 4DX.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think my parents went to see Chapter 2 in 4DX as well, and they were very surprised.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I saw an interview beforehand with Andy Muschietti and his wife Barbara, I think his name is, who's the producer on this, and he's very clearly a fan of the source material and understands the character and understands the powers that he's dealing with very well, and you really, really get a sense of it in this film. Like, again, without wanting to go too spoilery, there's a lot of stuff that Flash can do in the books, and we've not seen any of it in any of the previous movies. All we've seen is him run quite fast.
Yeah.
This, he can phase through stuff. He's sending out speed tornadoes. Like, he's using his lightning throw ability and stuff. I was like, this is great. Like, it works. So this is what it should be like, though. And it's very obvious that he's got a lot of love for the source material to be able to put those kind of things in there. I can't get into the villains on this really. Just to say that we've seen from the trailer, Zod comes back. So Zod's in this. But yeah, thoughts on this one, Zane, before we get into kind of opinions and then spoilers?
Sure thing. Thoughts. Let's fire some off. You're right. Their acting is very good. There's one gripe I have with it, and I'll probably go and speak about it more in spoilers, but the playing both roles of two versions of Barry was very good, and I like their interactions. It was very convincing as well, with their interactions and stuff. Now the visuals is very interesting because there are parts where the visuals are incredible.
I was going to talk to you.
A little.
If I had a major gripe with this movie, it would be the CGI was quite ropey in some places. We're talking like PS2 era CGI in some places. I was like, ooh, that's Cavill mustache bad. That is. Oh yeah, a lot of the scenes as well when it's multiple Barrys. I noticed that it was really bad, really fake faced.
Yeah, I noticed that as well.
And then we'll get on to again spoilers for some of the other CGI things that I thought was slightly ropey a bit later on. But yeah, other than that, I think the visualization of the powers, particularly Flash's powers, were exceptionally good, very, very good. Batman, the Batman stuff in this was very good, very, very good. This is a mild spoiler, but Affleck's killing people again within the first 5 minutes of the movie. Unbelievable. He hasn't changed. So no, I visually wise, it was great. Sound as well. The breaking of the sound barrier when Barry first, because he basically, you'll have seen it in the trailers, he does this sprinting stance, which is right before he's about to go into super speed, which is what he does in the books as well, which is cool. And as he hits it, he breaks the sound barrier and you just hear this boom, and then he fires off. And I was like, that is so awesome. It just sounds great. It is so, so good. No, I can't say enough. as far as my opinion of this film is concerned, I went into this film thinking it was going to be, like a Shazam. Like I thought I'd like it, but I didn't think I'd rate it that highly. This is, and I'm talking about DCEU, so we're talking about post Man of Steel, right?
Yep.
This is my favorite DCEU movie.
Interesting.
Equal with the Suicide Squad. Because I love the Suicide Squad. But this and the Suicide Squad are my favorite DCEU movies. 100%. I loved this film. Like, I genuinely loved this film. It hit me in every note of what I wanted. It had like crazy displays of power, not just from Supergirl, but from the Flash. It had nostalgia up the wazoo because, Batman 89 was my first superhero movie. It's what I go back to, like, whenever I think about, the baseline of where my superhero fandom came from. It's Keaton's Batman, that and the Spider-Man cartoons, like that's where I'm at. It had like really good character like development and plot, because like when the film starts, Flash is like jokey kid Flash, and then by the end of it he's learned what he's done, and it's fantastic. Like, it's just so well done. The only thing that lets it down is the CGI, and we'll talk more about other spoilery bits that I feel like it could have had that would have set it like on the upper tier, but no, this was great. And if this is what James Gunn's universe is going to be like moving forward, oh my god, I can't wait. Oh my god, I'm genuinely excited about the DC universe in movies. Like, weirdly, it's so weird, but I am super excited.
My initial thoughts were, I really like this movie, and like you said, everything has been a great experience, from the nostalgia to the Flash to everything else. I had a text message just before I drove home, and a friend of mine said, if you had to compare it to any other superhero movie, like, what is it like? And my instant thought was like, it feels like a Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, but I couldn't say which one. It didn't, like, I don't know. It's really weird I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was excellent. But it wasn't like, for me, it wasn't like Man of Steel, where I was like, Jesus, this is cinema, or Dark Knight or something. Do you know what I mean? It's
okay,
just kind of
so
like...
that's why I said within the context of the DCEU, because like in terms of kind of like, best cinematic, comic book movies ever, yeah, the Dark Knight is incredible. Infinity War, Endgame, they are incredible pieces of cinema. If I had to compare it to a film, I'd actually compare it to the first Iron Man, where it's like it's got really likable characters. You get pulled into them, like they draw you in with charisma. It's got enough nerd references in it to be like, oh, look at that, oh, that's that, oh, look at that. With a really good story, a really good, interesting story. It's not perfect. It's rough around the edges, and you can see that there's like there is more that they, there's more polish to come, if you will. But my god, it's a fun ride, and it just pulls you in and keeps you in. Like, it's 3 hours long pretty much, and I did not feel it. I did not feel those 3 hours at all, apart from when I had to go to the toilet at one point. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. But yeah, this is cinema. What's wrong with you, Man of Steel?
What do you mean? Man of Steel is
I like Man of
Steel. You wouldn't believe. Like, you would not believe.
I like Man of Steel. You know what my problem with Man of Steel is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not thrilled about the ending either, but as multi-layered as it is, it's still fantastic.
Yes, it is. No, it's good. Don't get me wrong. I love Man of Steel. I think it's a great film. I really do think it's a really good film. I just, there's just certain key points that I don't like. I still get goosebumps when Superman manages to overpower the world engine and flies up into it. Like I love that. It still gets me every time. Where he's just this sheer force of will. To protect people, as he can just like fly through this gravity-defying thing. I love that.
It's the flight sequence for me. The first time he flies, I'm like,
oh yeah, that's cool.
That is a sequence and a half. But
yeah. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Superman. Superman's not in this. Well, not really. Well, anyway, we'll get to that. But yeah, so yeah, as far as my review of the unspoiled version, it's 100% undisputed for me. Go and watch this film, guys. Go and watch it. It is fantastic, and it is the beginning of the new DC universe as well. So definitely go and watch it. What about you, Zane?
It's undisputed, 100%, and yeah, definitely go and watch it. It's as I say, it's a fun ride, fun experience for everyone.
All right, let's get into spoilers then. So, Zane, who's the baddie in this film?
A very adjacent version of a bad Flash.
I guess so.
Salvatore or
no, is it
Zoom or Death or?
So this was the bit where I was like, that is the one kind of issue with it, is that in Flashpoint, so it's really hard to justify. It's really hard to justify Flashpoint without knowing the story before in the book, because the idea is Reverse Flash is the person who kills Barry Allen's mum.
Yeah,
which
is not paid off in this movie, by the way.
No. Oh yeah, we never find out who did. You're right. We never find out who did it.
Just completely left on the table.
I didn't even think about that. You're right. Well, that's probably that must be set up for him in the future. Then I would guess.
But there's no like electricity.
No, I know. There's no reveal.
There's
well, you never see it. You never see what happens.
You never see what happens.
But yeah, no. So yeah, so in Flashpoint, Reverse Flash is the one who kills Barry's mum, and then Barry goes back and stops that from happening. Although I'm not sure how. I can't remember how it happens in Flashpoint. I have to reread it. And then in doing so, he unravels the universe as it is. So things happen in a very different way. Like for instance, Bruce Wayne gets killed in the comic book version, and instead of his parents. So then Thomas Wayne becomes Batman in Flashpoint. A load of things happen in Flashpoint basically, and the culmination of Flashpoint is the end of the world. That the Atlanteans and the Themyscirans rip the world in half, and it's famously ended with, well, there's a massive panel in the book where Flash is thinking that that Reverse Flash is the one who's caused this, and he yells out for Thorn, I know it's you, come out. And then Thorn appears and says, but I didn't make this world, Barry, you did. And that's the whole thing, is it's Barry in his ultimate hubris has ended the world essentially with Flashpoint. And then he goes back, fixes it, and that's what creates the New 52. So with this universe, you're right, you never find out who killed Barry's mum, but it's the same principle. He stops his mum from being killed, and in stopping his mum from being killed, rewrites the universe. And it's interesting. It's an interesting premise, because I think it is true that we do have in our heads the Back to the Future formula of time travel, which is an event in the past creates a split timeline in the future, which is where you go on this new track, which is your new reality or whatever it is. But they explain this very differently in this one, don't they, Zane?
They do, yeah. They use the idea that because the events have changed at that point, it then has an echo effect on the past. So the past is changed as well, not just that one point going forward into the future, which was really good and explained as well. Not like a super complex way like the Avengers did. It was a real nice, easy way, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I still the Avengers thing is I think the Avengers timeline they put into the context of it creates multiverses because they were about to go into the multiverse, and that's why they did it. But with this one, it's very elegantly explained with spaghetti. And it's that classic, time is not linear. It's wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, but there are certain fixed points in time that have to happen and cannot be prevented, essentially. And Barry's mum's death seems to be one of those points. It seems to be a focal point that when it is changed fundamentally, it changes everything around it. And or there's even actual points that you just can't change. It's going to happen no matter what, as we find out later on in the film. And so we kind of get this weird reveal of this strange creature that knocks him out of the chronosphere that he creates. What is it? What did he call the speed? The chronospeed or something like that? I can't remember what he called it. Like a chrono bubble. Like, I will say the time travel looked amazing. Like, I was like, this is awesome the way they're doing this.
It's very cool.
I apologize. I've kind of skipped ahead a little bit. Let's go right back to the beginning. So we get to see in full spoilers, we actually get to see a world populated by the Justice League and how it operates. So Flash at the beginning of the film is essentially Batman's janitor. He cleans up bat messes.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, isn't that far off from the truth, because as far as my memory goes, Flash is always the one who has to clear the civilians out of the way of what could potentially be a huge battle with whatever villain of the week it is.
Yeah. That they give us one of my favorite slow motion sequences in films. Like, so that the Quicksilver in Days of Future Past in the kitchen when he's going around it, that remains the epitome of slow motion sequences of super speed. But like this one where he saves the babies. So basically there's a hospital that's going to collapse, and he has to rescue babies that are falling out of a hospital window from a very great height. And a canine assist dog that is like a caregiving dog and a nurse, and like he manages to save them all, and it all happens in slow motion, and it's just so well done. Although I did feel it was a little bit on the nose having Ezra Miller put a baby in a microwave.
So awkwardly, my sister had texted me earlier today, and she sent me this tweet where someone said Ezra Miller baby in a microwave in the Flash movie, and I was like, what the hell does this mean? Now seeing the movie, I get it. I did feel that sequence went on way too long though. I get
really?
it. Yeah, it felt a bit long. Like, he has a snack and stuff to re-energize, which is cool, and I get it. But yeah, I was kind of waiting for it to be done to kind of move on with the chase sequence with Batman.
Okay, so we all know why that was, though. That's your personal preference. That's because there was a chase sequence going on with Batfleck, and he was like, I could see him crossing his legs in the cinema as he saw him. He got very excited, guys. You should have seen it. It was terrifying. I liked it because it demonstrated what his powers were. Like, it demonstrated how fast he actually was. Like, the idea that he can, rubble up a building, whilst it's falling down and do it all and save them all like super quick. I liked that because, again, just to put it into context, the only time we've seen his proper display of powers in the movies and the general audience have seen it is when he's got this is the other thing, is when he's got a weird run in Justice League and then he gets tripped over by Superman.
No, we've seen more than that.
Come on, man. No, we haven't. Come on.
Yes, we have. We saw him the first time at the end of Justice League.
Yeah, but
And then, if you saw the Snyder Cut, you'd see him save Iris as well, in a hail of hot dogs and stuff. And they've carried over the fact that he tries to avoid touching people because he's scared it might, disrupt them once speed resumes again. So he always points or, gingerly touches things to not cause any sort of damage to them, which is great that they've carried that theme across.
I still don't think they fully embossed how powerful Flash is, though, in the Justice League films. like how strong, like why he is a member of the Justice League. It's not just that he can run really quick. You know what I mean?
Of
Like,
course. Yeah.
also, they fixed his running in this film. I was so happy to see it because in Justice League he does this weird like floppy legs thing out at the side, and he runs like Phoebe in Friends.
I don't watch Friends, so I don't know what that means.
Well,
but...
I'll send you a clip of it later, and you'll know, and you'll find it hilarious. But anyway, he runs like
Right.
floppy-legged Phoebe, right? In this, he runs properly, like he's properly, like, you know, legs properly moving, like properly, like almost like he's ice skating through speed. It's amazing. Like it looked really good, and like, you know, better than the Justice League. So yeah. Yes, let's get on to Batman then, because I can tell you're itching to talk about Batfleck. Like, yes, Batfleck's in this for about 5 to 10 minutes, I think he is in total. And yes, it's very impressive. Yes, he murders people like very quick. Like my brother, who I was sitting next to as we were watching the film, like Batman, he has to take down a Humvee, like which has got a bunch of baddies in it, and he literally he cracks open the Humvee and he literally throws one of the occupants out into the traffic, and I'm pretty sure they get hit by a car. And my brother just leaned over and just went, Batfleck still kills people then. And I was like, this is a man who has no interest in comic books, really, and even he recognizes how much of a murderer Batfleck is. That's going on I can add that to the Batman kill list now. That's the 360 no scope. It's coming back.
There we go. Yeah, the Batfleck has his own section going forward.
Come on, give us your Batfleck's opinions then, because you're such a lover boy for him.
It was fantastic. It was exhilarating. It was amazing to see this version of the Bat Pod or Bat Cycle, and I feel like Bat Cycle's almost like the new Spider-Man holding something together with webbing. It's almost like
yeah, he's always got to have one.
Yeah, it's almost like you always have Spider-Man doing the stretchy arm out, holding a crisis together with his web. You always have a Batman on a Bat Cycle for a chase sequence to let the audience know this is their Batman.
Yeah, this is their Batman. Yeah, sure.
But yeah, very fun, very cool. And what else can I say? It's the funnest 5 minutes we'll ever see of Batfleck now.
Yeah, I really don't think he's done. I really don't. I think, because I've read things post production, like reports and stuff like that apparently Affleck has said this was the most fun he's had being Batman. Like he really enjoyed Batman v Superman. He did not enjoy doing Justice League. Apparently he really enjoyed coming back and doing this. And I think it shows, you know. And again, spoilers, cameo, Wonder Woman turns up and kind of saves the day. And I think that's probably the last we've seen as Gal Gadot as well as Wonder Woman, unless she pops up in Aquaman and Blue Beetle, which could happen, I guess. You know, there's a great bit with the lasso of truth as well, where it's wrapped around Batman's arm and he doesn't realize, and he just starts speaking truth about how he's created this persona so that he doesn't have to show sensitivity and all this other kind of stuff, which I thought was great. But yeah, no, I mean, it's good. It did a really good job establishing the world, and it also did a really good job of establishing the fact that the Flash is kind of the outsider of the Justice League, really. You know, he's like the weird fanboy who just admires all the other participants rather than being a central member of it. You know, it's that awkward story.
Or his own sort of superhero as such.
Exactly. Yeah, he's following in their wake. Exactly. Yeah. Rather than striving his own path. And yeah, I will say it does kind of jump a bit the motivation for him immediately going back in time and saving his mum. Like it does. I feel like he's not, because in Flashpoint the reason why he does it is because I can't remember, somebody's died and he's at his lowest of lows basically, and he's so depressed and he just wants to see his mum. And so
his mum's birthday or something. I always thought it was like his mum. It was like a date, like his mum's birthday or the anniversary of her death or something.
It was, but somebody had just died. I can't remember. Something had just happened. Something monumental had just happened in the universe. Whether it was Final Crisis or something like that, where Batman had died or something. I can't remember. But like, because it was in New 52, Batman's still dead.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he is.
No, because he gets a letter from his dad at the end of Flashpoint.
Oh yeah, you're
And he
right.
cries.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're right. Yeah. Yeah, what am I? When does he become? Is Final Crisis part of the New 52 then?
No, it's way before. Well, not way before, but it's definitely before it. Because then it goes, because Tim Drake does the search for Bruce Wayne throughout time.
Yeah,
as
I
Red
know.
Robin, and then he comes back, and then both him
Well,
and
that's when
Dick are
because that's when Dick and
Batmans
Damien
stuff.
is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I must. Yeah, okay. So what the hell happened then? Because Flashpoint is what creates the New 52, right? Like that's the canonical.
Yeah, once everything's back to normal,
Yeah.
yeah, it creates the New 52.
You are right. It is his mum's birthday. It's somebody died. Oh, is it Bart Allen who dies? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. What I'm trying to say is there is a big heavyweight emotional bit in the comic book Flashpoint because of all the loss he suffered, because all the stuff they've been through that makes him go back in time. And in the film, I don't think that emotional weight was necessarily there. It was just kind of like I can do this, so I might as well, you know. Which I thought was, and I get it, you know, if you can go back in time and save your mum and think you can get away with it, then why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And obviously with his dad being put on trial and stuff, but like, it could have had more reasoning behind his going back in time. I think, you know, like I said, that's where you're missing like a zoom, a reverse flash or a zoom or someone, because if that motivation was there, that he suddenly finds out he's the one who killed my mum, then there's more of a reason to go back, you know, because it's like, oh, I need to go back and stop him.
Yeah.
But and so that bit was slightly lacking. And then like once the universe changes and we kind of get an idea of how everything's changed. I mean, we get like there were quite a few DCEU cameos in this, weren't there? I mean, we get Victor Stone is not Cyborg in this universe. He's just a football player. Like his career is successful.
Yeah, he gets mentioned. Tamara Morrison.
Yeah.
Yes, he gets an actual cameo in this.
Bob Fett.
Old Bob himself.
Bob Fett. Yeah.
Because he calls the lighthouse to find out if Aquaman was available.
Tom Curry, yeah, brother of Tim. Yeah, in this one he never met whatever her name is, who I can't remember. What's the Nicole Kidman, but I can't remember what the
I wouldn't worry.
Atlanta, is it? I think
maybe something along those lines.
Anyway, yeah. So Arthur doesn't exist. Well, Arthur the dog exists, but Arthur the Aquaman does not exist in this universe. And then both his parents are kind of happy and together, and everything's good. And he's good. He's an obnoxious little brat of a kid. And yeah, this is like when it's really fun. But then when he meets his counterpart, that's when things get really, really good. And he like the acting from Ezra Miller is exceptional. Like just this like world weary almost Barry meeting this innocent Barry who's not had to go through anything, and realizing that, you know, he's a bit of a dick.
Here's what really, this is what I was alluding to earlier, is he seems very, how do I explain this? So he's very kind of kooky, Barry Allen.
Yes.
And then when he meets his counterpart, he then switches to the Barry Allen I would have expected, you know, someone who's informative, someone who's structured and everything else. And I really like that.
I agree.
You know, almost became the bigger brother to his counterpart and everything else. Perfect.
Yeah.
What I do like is once everything got reset back, he still had that kookiness about him. And it's kind of like, I thought we've kind of grown, because like when he has that press conference after and he's talking about spaghetti, I was kind of like, oh, like
Yeah, to a point. I think that was more. No, I think that was more. He was happy that his dad got off, and he didn't know how to express himself properly. And
Sure.
then him around Iris, he's not good around Iris because he's in love with her and doesn't know how to tell her. So I agree with you. There should have been a bit more of a move forward from his character, but yeah, I mean, it's not. It didn't take anything away from it for me, if that makes sense.
Sure, yeah. Also, Counter Barry, I was pretty convinced like most of this movie, he was either channeling his inner Bart Allen or Impulse or, Kid Flash, especially
Kid Flash,
like
100%.
the yellow hoodie, and
Yeah.
especially with the slightly longer hair. I was like, this is giving me Bart Allen vibes. Like,
Yes. Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah, maybe that was maybe it was a subtle nod to it, I guess. But yeah, no, it was good. So, yeah, I guess the kind of the MacGuffin is that this world has been fundamentally changed from. So, as we mentioned, Aquaman doesn't exist, because the past has changed as well as the future. And one of the other things that has changed is that, Batman. It's actually the Tim Burton universe Batman. And he's older and has given up being Batman because apparently Gotham is a utopia now, which is interesting. So just there you go. If Batman had just killed the Joker all along, there'd be no problems in Gotham. And then Zod arrives in exactly the same way that he arrives in Man of Steel. Only this time there's no Superman. And so they have to go off in search of the Justice League, basically, to try and stop Zod. What did you think of Keaton in this?
He did what was needed and expected of him, which is to play the 89 version of himself, which I thought he did a great job. Like, he still had those like mannerisms, like I think you picked up on it as well, but the way he does, like, he pauses and then kind of like does a quirky move when he was making that pasta and stuff. It was very like, that's what I remember. There was so many beats as well that they kind of hit back at him with doing his stitches was kind of reminiscent of when he pulled the claw out. Him asking about how much everyone weighed was very reminiscent of him asking Vicky Vale how much she weighed and stuff.
There's a lot of like on the nose references,
there to kind of be like, it's him.
Yeah, I liked. They didn't. I mean, the set designer for this film deserves an award because they really perfectly recreated that Batcave from his 89 movie. Like, the computer was the exact same Bat computer that he used. I really liked that. Like, it was kind of a lot of the old clunky 89 tech. Even to a point where when he's using the Batwing later on, it's like some of the controls and stuff are still the old school controls where he like clicks up the buttons and stuff.
Analog buttons and stuff. Yeah.
But then you get like these weird gyroscopes and stuff so that he can fully spin the plane. And I'm just like, that's awesome because it's like 89 technology but updated modern day. I love it. I absolutely
loved it. Roller mouse ball. That kind of was like, man, I haven't seen one of those in a decade or two.
Yeah, it makes me think he could very easily do a Batman Beyond film very easily. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they'll do an Elseworlds Batman Beyond with him after this. I really think so, because he would be fantastic as an old man. Like, they even gave him the grumpy old man shtick when they first meet him with the fight in the kitchen. And yeah, he's good, and he also displays that's the thing that I guess you could say about Keaton's Batman was that he never really got the opportunities to show his prowess as far as like intelligence is concerned, and the fact that he is the greatest detective. And in this he does. He explains the time travel theorem. He's responsible for finding out about the Russian black site that has the Kryptonian in it that we think is Superman. He pushes the beats forward. He helps Flash with the experiment later on to regain powers. Yeah, it's great. he's really well rounded, and it is a very clear growth of that particular Batman, which I really liked.
I am pretty convinced that half his scenes weren't with the other actors. Like,
Oh, you think so?
yeah, like that one scene where like you said, where Barry tries to gain his powers back, and he's at that control desk.
Yeah,
I was pretty convinced that was probably shot on a different day.
Yeah, probably. We'll talk about like little. I guess we can talk about nods to Flashpoint at this point. So in Flashpoint, when Barry goes back in time, and then changes it, and in the future he comes back, he doesn't have his powers anymore because he's living in a world where the Flash never existed, because his mum never died, so he never became the Flash, and so he loses his powers. And then in this, they play it slightly differently in that young Barry has to get his powers in order to have his powers. And when he gives young Barry his powers, old Barry loses his powers. And so that's then prompts a whole like new take on the Flash learning his powers, which we haven't seen in this universe yet, which I thought was quite a nice little almost mini origin story of the Flash.
Yeah.
But it also prompts the exact recreation of how he regains his powers in the Flashpoint book, which is one of my favorite things ever, which is he basically douses himself in chemicals and straps himself into an electric chair. And they do it in this thing, and it is fantastic. Like, it works so good. And then we'll get onto this bit as well, because we'll talk about the Kryptonian as well, because then they come into it. But then it's the Kryptonian that eventually has to lift him up into, the lightning to give him like his rebirth, if you will. And it's great. It's such an awesome scene. And then
beautiful.
You get to see his regeneration powers, as well as he completely heals all of his third-degree burns, like in like seconds, because he's got instant regeneration essentially. So let's talk about Kryptonian. So there is a counter to Zod. So in Man of Steel, it was Superman. And they need to find Superman in this one. So they go to a Russian black site, because apparently the pod has landed in Russia this time. It's not landed in America. And they go and they find the Kryptonian. Who's the Kryptonian, Zane?
It is none other than Kara Zor-El.
It is. It's Kara. It's Supergirl. And I'm very happy that they displayed her in the same way that they do with Superman in the book, which is she's not exposed to sunlight, and so she's really frail and like skinny and like just malnourished and stuff, because Kryptonians get their power from a yellow sun, so she has not had any exposure to the sun, and therefore she's all weak. I think as far as characters concerned, from my point of view, Supergirl is probably the least developed in this. What did you think?
I would agree. Probably had the least screen time as well, thinking out loud, because after they find her, they kind of have a team talk and then go into the big battle. So
yeah. Sasha Calle does enough with the role to be at least memorable, but it's a shame she didn't get more to do. But I think she was already in an overstuffed as it is movie.
Yeah.
It's an interesting dynamic of her and young Flash. He obviously has a crush on her. And it's interesting to see what could have been, I guess, in that universe.
Interesting.
What?
I hadn't really thought of it as a crush. I just thought that he was perhaps like mesmerized by just her as a whole. Like, I
thought so.
And with it.
When he was filming her in the Batwing, and then I was like, yeah, okay, that's a crush. Yeah, I will say, just moving back briefly as well. It was really nice to see a proper full-on action sequence with Batman 89 displaying how much he can kick ass, because he kicks a lot of ass in that Russian bunker, like really well as well. Like it is awesome. The only thing that I didn't like, and this is again, it fits in with the CGI thing, it's become quite a DC trope, and I dislike it immensely. The most famous example of me disliking this is in Black Adam, but where they do the superhuman slow-mo with a banging track in the background. Boom. So in Black Adam, they had him taking out an entire Iranian army or someone. I can't remember where it was or wherever he was. And it was to the track of Rolling Stones, Paint It Black. In this, you had Supergirl going after, I think it was the Raconteurs or someone playing in the background. I can't remember. Or was it White Stripes, maybe?
I'm not sure.
I hate it. I hate it so much. It's so annoying. It's just like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, I get it. Like, yeah, they kick ass and they're superheroes. Woo. You don't need like this horrible musical tie-in with like a popular beat combo, thanks. Just have them doing what they do. That's all that's needed, It's a lot more impactful than it is with just like, oh, they're all hip and cool. Look at them go. I think they did it later as well with the Kryptonian battle as well. But that time kind of worked when it was the two Flashes working together. That time was fine. But yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, so Supergirl's she was good. I just wish we'd seen more of her.
Yeah, I completely agree. Really good, conveyed the emotions and everything really well. The only again, I'm really nitpicking here. The only thing that I found really questionable was that Zod stabbed her to gain the Codex.
Yes.
And I was kind of like, in Man of Steel, they had to get Superman onto the ship, change the atmospheric conditions to be able to penetrate his skin. And I was like, it's kind of weird that they're just doing it in a desert. No questions asked.
She wasn't. It's my explanation and understanding of that. She had not been bathed in the yellow sun for the entirety of her life. She had literally just come out of a pod, and she was weak as hell, which is why she could barely even stand after beating him up.
That's fair.
And I think she was just super weak, so she hadn't developed enough to be able to have that like ultra hard Man of Steel skin. That was my explanation behind it anyway. But you're right, it's never really explained. But that it just makes Supergirl look weak.
It's kind of a weird thing because you see her punch a missile and like fly through the explosion and all this other hardcore stuff, and then you see her go. He gets his little blade out, and then it's like, oh.
Yeah, but but we also have it established so there's a part later on where basically the kind of core ending of the film is there's a big fight with Zod. Michael Shannon's back, hamming it up like no tomorrow's General Zod. He's brilliant. Feora's back. The Kryptonian giant is back.
Amazing.
They're all back. And they are all back as well.
The giant Kryptonian.
Yeah. Non, I think his name's Non in the original Christopher Reeve thing, but I think you're right. I think it's Nemec or something. Anyway, so they're all back, and this was like one of the coolest sequences for me was when they supercharge the Kryptonian. So basically, we get loads of flash powers because Barry's using his like old Barry is using his proper like full gamut of powers. Also, I loved the fact as well that original like Barry when he's younger and hasn't mastered his powers has the blue lightning.
Yes.
And then when he's older, he's gone proper gold lightning and he's like full on yellow. And it was a great way of distinguishing the two. And it does work like that because in Justice League he's got the blue lightning and then later on he's got the later. So but yeah, they overcharge the Kryptonian giant, who then promptly explodes, and part of his armor gets lodged into Barry's arm. Then Barry uses that armor to kill Feora. So the reason why I was thinking about the Supergirl thing is maybe their Kryptonian blades can pierce Kryptonian skin if it's not been bathed in a yellow light. Like maybe that's the MacGuffin.
That's what I was kind of thinking, because he used it twice because he nicks her on her leg and then he as you say strikes her down.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he properly goes like ultra Baraka style from Mortal Kombat, just like choppity chop. But yeah, you're right. I could have done with some explanation, but it's already quite a bloated film, so I understand why they didn't. The gist of it is that no matter what they do, Keaton's Batman always dies, and Supergirl always dies, and there is nothing they can do in that reality to stop it. It is a fixed point in time. However, young Barry cannot accept that, having not gone through all the trauma and everything before, and so continuously tries to rewrite time, and ends up tearing the multiverse asunder, and turns into the sort of baddie, which is, I guess, kind of just a warped version of himself. Like you said, because Savitar in the books is not Barry, it's somebody, it's the god of speed, is the idea. But they kind of do Savitar as a future Flash in the TV series. But regardless, it's basically the main bad guy is a future Flash. And it's what would happen if young Barry, who didn't have his mum died, kept trying to rewrite time, and just got more mangled up, basically, and almost had it fixed. So this was one of the coolest sequences, I guess, in the film, which was when you see the damage that is being done to the multiverse, and you see a metric ton of cameos appear in the different timelines. Would you like to go through with me some of these cameos, Zane?
Absolutely. Just before you read some of those, this is when this movie became a crisis event in my eyes.
Yes, correct.
I was like, this is now a crisis. No wonder they dropped the Flashpoint title, because this is now a mini crisis of some sort. But maybe they don't want to call it a crisis because they want to save that for their own version of Endgame somewhere down the line.
Yeah, possibly. I would imagine. I mean, Flashpoint was a crisis, but they didn't call it a crisis. I think it was the first thing that literally wasn't a crisis that they didn't. I guess the return of Bruce Wayne was kind of a crisis as well, but I don't know. All right, so cameo wise, so we've mentioned Feora. Feora's back, obviously, with Zod. What else have we got? We've got Tamara Morrison that you've already mentioned. We've got Ben Affleck, who you've already mentioned. So in the multiversal crisis, we had archival footage of George Reeves, who is the original Superman from the 1950s TV series. We had archival footage of Adam West, the original Batman from the TV series. We had Christopher Reeve appeared in archival footage, obviously, as well as the original Supergirl, Helen Slater, which also confirmed the long-standing fan theory that they were in the same universe and they did actually meet at some point. So they all appeared together.
I wouldn't say it was archive footage. It was very CG, I would have thought.
Okay.
It was like a...
True. Sorry.
It was,
yes.
It's like a cutscene in a game, wasn't it? Like,
yeah, we'll come to that in a little bit, because the other thing, there's the other cameo I want to talk about as far as CGI is concerned. This bit is going to make you nerd out. So in the George Steele universe, so there is a George Reeves, not George Steele. Sorry, I was thinking Christopher Reeves, Man of Steel. I got all confused. Sorry, George Reeves, Superman.
Yeah.
In his old 1950s universe, there is a version of the Flash who is running on a cosmic treadmill, and it is Jay Garrick. Do you know which actor that is?
Is it Wesley? Oh, how do you pronounce his name? Is it Wesley, the guy who played as Flash in the TV series in the 1994 or 92 version?
No, it is not, although that would have been great. And I don't know why they didn't get him in to do anything. Oh God, what's his name? Oh no, now you're testing me. I'm trying to think of his name. Ship, isn't it? Something Ship.
Yeah.
Something Ship. I can't remember what his name is. That's gonna drive me nuts. Look it up quick.
I am.
John Wesley Shipp. That's who it is. Yes, John Wesley Shipp, who was the original Flash in the TV series, and then is Jay Garrick, like canon Jay Garrick. But no, it's Teddy Sears. Do you know who Teddy Sears is?
No, I don't think I do.
Teddy Sears is the guy who played Jay Garrick in the Grant Gustin Flash series, who then turned out to be Zoom.
What?
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know, right? Somebody was I saw this thing and somebody was saying, I wonder if somebody just typed into Google when they were doing the casting, who's played Jay Garrick, and his name came up top. So yes, that was him. That was Teddy Sears. The biggest cameo, I guess cameo inverted commas, was we got a glimpse of a universe where Tim Burton's Superman Lives came to life, and we had Nicolas Cage as the Man of Steel. Finally, his dream role comes true, and Nick effing Cage is fighting a giant spider. Yes.
Now, for those who are unaware, this is like cinema lore, isn't it? Really, it's kind of like one of the biggest secrets that got out about cinema, about Warner Brothers and
behind the scenes, basically.
Yeah. Thanks to Kevin Smith and others, especially when it came to Tim Burton's process of creating this version of Superman. And
so but off the back of Batman and Batman Returns, the studio tried to get Burton back for Batman Forever, and he didn't go for it. Instead, he opted to do a Superman movie. He was more interested in doing the Superman character. And so the same producer who did the Batman movies for Tim Burton came on board. Kevin Smith was involved in writing the script for Superman Lives. And it was in pre-production, and they were moving ahead. And they'd cast Nicolas Cage as Superman. They'd done costume fittings for him, everything. There's photos out there, guys, of him in the uniform. It was going to be very electricity based, the uniform. It was going to be a weird kind of like, different version of Superman almost. But it was going to happen. It was on the track, and then it all fell apart for various reasons. And yeah, Kevin Smith did a piece about this in his stand-up where he talks about what it was like to part write the film and deal with this nutball producer who worked for Warner Brothers. And it's fascinating, and you should go out. There's even a documentary about Superman Lives, about the making of it. You should watch it. It's amazing. So it's nice that Nicholas. Go on.
Oh, no,
I was going to say. You go.
I'm sure Kevin Smith's going to mention this on his podcast, Fat Man Beyond. So I'd highly recommend checking that out. Because again, the whole the whole giant spider is what led to eventually becoming Wild Wild West, as well as the casting of Will Smith, because this producer wanted a black Superman fighting a giant spider. And those two things have now happened in a weird way.
In a weird kind of way they have, yeah. And basically all the universes are like colliding into each other. There's some other, you get the Cavill universe as well, like Cavill Superman, you get nodded at in the universe. It's nice. The spheres as well, I noticed, were kind of like, I don't know if you noticed, but they all had different hues, as in like Silver Age of comics, Golden Age of comics, and all that other kind of stuff, which I quite liked. But yeah, the MacGuffin is basically past Barry realizes what he's become, ends up sacrificing himself to stop future Barry, which ends up ending the crisis. Present Barry goes back in time, fixes the mistake he made. His mum dies. He returns to modern day, but in doing so, he also changes something, because he makes it so that his dad will be seen on camera, so that he will be released from prison in the future. That is technically a change to the universe, and so therefore there will be ramifications moving forward for that. And so he comes back to present day. The court case goes well. His dad is released, and then everything seems to be back to normal, except Zane. Except what has happened?
So
your boy turns up, doesn't he?
So Bruce Wayne calls Barry to say congratulations, I'm glad things went well with the court case. He says, I'm just turning up now. The car rolls up. Now, I knew that this was leading to something, because, do you know what I mean? It was like people in way of the car, and they were obviously about, and I thought, oh, this is going to be the Keaton is alive moment. But boy, boy, was I surprised that it was not Keaton.
I actually thought, do you know what? I genuinely thought it was going to be Pattinson at the end.
Did you really?
I really
Yeah.
did. I thought they were going to do like an aged up Patterson, and it would be him, and then they would establish that no, it's the same universe, and that's Gotham kind of thing, like in this universe. But no, who was it?
It was only bloody George Clooney himself.
It was. We were not joking, guys. It was George Clooney, who was Batman in Batman and Robin. Yeah, I think this is akin to the John Krasinski Reed Richards thing, where it was obviously just a cheeky little nod, and I don't think he's going to be Batman moving forward.
No.
But like, yeah, it was kind of weird to see him. I wasn't unhappy to see him, but like,
no,
it was strange.
It's funny because last week Sky had turned one of its channels into a Batman marathon, so it was just playing nothing but Batman movies back to back, which was really fun because like throughout the weekend I was casually jumping to it, and there'd be a Batman movie on.
Yeah.
So I watched Batman and Robin with Arnie and
I mean,
everything.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? It's
just very ridiculous, but it makes me laugh every time.
Yeah.
And the fact that I've seen him play Bruce Wayne twice in 1 week is it's just a weird coincidence. And then it's kind of like, again, this is something I thought of when I was driving home. Is this now the No Way Home of Batman movies?
Probably. Yeah, probably.
Because we've had 3 Batmans in 1 movie.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. But
I mean, they didn't interact with each other, but
no. Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's just a nice farewell to a lot of this, and it was the only other thing to mention is that Jason Momoa turns up at the end in the post credits, and he's still very much Aquaman, and the Aquaman we remember, so he's established. I think that the interesting thing for me was the fact that, like, I don't know whether they've done this as a reset for the DCU to say moving forward, everything's off the tables. We're going to recast a load of people because we don't know who's going to show up as what, right? I don't know whether that's what they've done with this, or whether this was the establishing thing to say anything can change if something in the past changes. Because, we've got 2 more movies coming up that were on the slate before James Gunn took over. We've got Blue Beetle and we've got Aquaman. Now, I've heard some spoilery stuff about Aquaman, which I won't share with you because it might ruin some of the film. It revolves around the Amber Heard character, around Mira, and that relationship. So I don't know whether that's as a result of Flashpoint that those things have changed, or it's just coinky dink. I don't know how much of this movie was influenced by James Gunn, because I know for a fact that at one point the Warner Brothers plan was to move forward with Supergirl-led, heroes, be a strong female, representation with that. And you can see in this film they were very clearly establishing a world with no Superman. And I wouldn't be surprised if the original plan for the script was at the end of this for it to remain in that Batman universe, the Burton universe where there is no Superman. So it's interesting. I don't know where they're going to go from this, and I don't know if Ezra Miller's going to be back. It's so weird for me because based on this performance, I would like to see them back because they were I know, and that's crazy, right? Like, that's really weird. They were really good in this, but based on my personal preferences to them as a person, I don't want them back, and they should recast. But but again, it just goes to show, like we've been saying all along, with James Gunn and with Guardians, and with James Gunn and the Suicide Squad, with Andy Muschietti in this, you get somebody who understands the character, respects the source material, but knows how to modernize it. You can make magic. And this was really, really good.
It was really good. And there's one rumor that's been going around a lot recently, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this. How would you feel if Andy Muschietti was to do Batman Brave and the Bold in James Gunn's slate? Or is it Brave and the Bold? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. You're right. I don't know. Don't know how I feel about that. I would honestly, I would rather, if this is anything to go by, I would
Mhm.
rather him deal with some of the other characters. Batman is fairly, I mean, as much as, do not get me wrong, Batman is you know, easily my top tier, like, you know, tied for first place favorite
Mhm.
character of all time. But Batman is also very easy to do now. You know, you do a film, you have a, you know, the Batman films tend to be more about the compelling bad guys now than they do
Yeah.
about Batman. You know, because everyone knows who Batman is. Everyone knows his origin. Everyone knows what he is. Everyone knows what he
And we've
does.
seen so many versions of it already.
It writes itself. You know,
Yeah.
as long as you do the baddie okay, doesn't really matter. But Green Lantern,
Yeah.
you know, if Andy Muschietti is a fan of Green Lantern, I would love to see him tackle Green Lantern. You know, I know it's going to be a TV series and not a film, but
Mhm.
like, you know, there's so many other characters that he could handle. You know, I'd love to see him do a Superman movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I the thing is with this movie as well, it has it it shifts almost a little bit in genre because it goes from like serious superhero movie to some of the campy stuff, like when Barry clothes starts to incinerate and it becomes very cartoony in terms of pylons dropping onto trucks, and then music equipment falls out of the truck, and
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And it kind of feels Warner Bros esque, and you know, like Looney Tunes and stuff. And I feel like he can do that without it becoming cheesy or tacky.
yeah, I agree. It was great. I'm sure there's lots of stuff that we've forgotten about and haven't talked about. I
Mm.
mean, I will go and see this again. I'm
Oh yeah,
definitely going to go
same.
and see it again. It's great. You know, I think just in summary, I think if this is, you know, I said it to you when we left the cinema.
Hmm.
If this is how the trajectory of the DC universe is going to go movie wise, with James Gunn at the helm,
Hmm.
with these kind of directors making these kind of films, Marvel needs to be extremely worried and needs to seriously pick up their game, because I am way more excited right now about DC than I am with anything Marvel's doing.
Yeah.
I really am. Like, you know, Marvel's a mess right now. Like,
Mm.
with the Jonathan Majors fallout and everything else, it is a mess. And I'm hoping Loki's going to be really good. Secret
Hmm.
Invasion's coming up this week, so that'll be interesting to kind of see.
Yeah.
But like, they really need to pick up their game, because if this is where it's going and this is what it's going to be like with these kind of characters and this kind of plot and interesting powers and all this other kind of stuff, yeah, it's going to be good. The only thing missing from this was a proper villain, a
Hmm.
real proper villain, not just Zod. And Zod is a proper villain, but anyway, and some better CGI.
Yeah. But I can only imagine they must have lost so much money with the amount of rewrites and changes and everything else that has occurred over the last
Mm-hmm.
5 years, or maybe even longer, maybe even the last 10 years,
Yeah,
for
probably.
this movie. So yeah, I can understand why there could have been constraints on the CGI element and money and stuff.
True. But as always, guys, what did you think of The Flash? Did you think it
Mm.
was incredible? Did you think it broke the Speed Force? Or did you think it was, well, let's face it, Aquaman face down in a puddle? What did you think of The Flash? Let us know. How can they get in touch with us, Zane?
You can email us. You can leave comments on the video or on your favorite podcast platform. As always, all the relevant links will be in the description down below. You can follow me at dark_archer. That's DRK because it's abbreviated like MMOs and
Yep,
other cool things, because cool things are abbreviated now. Did you know?
that's
No,
right.
you didn't. Like me.
Dirk Archer. There he is. I'm never letting you get away with it.
What about you? Where can people find you?
You can get me on Twitch, twitch.tv/gentlemanly gamer. Yeah, I had an on and off week due to the intense heat that it is in the UK here. But yeah, we're doing that every Tuesdays and Thursdays at the moment, but it might be changing in the future. We'll see. And then you can get me on the gram. If you want to message me on Instagram at Gentleman the Gamer, I am also on there. Yeah. we'll be back in a couple of weeks, won't we?
We will be. Are we going to see Indiana Jones?
I mean, do you mean are we going to see Indiana Jones together?
Maybe. Dial of
possibly.
Destiny. Yeah,
possibly. Yeah, let's just yeah. I think you're going to end up taking me along Weekend at Bernie style, where I'll be just an unconscious corpse, and you'll just take me along into the cinema pretending I'm watching it with you. That came up on my timeline earlier in the day, and it's been in my head.
Wow.
Right. All right, I'm going. It's like, is this still the city of love, Zane? Let's go. Right. Have a good time, guys. Speak to you later. Bye.
Take care. Bye.